10 years of Sccrrapp. 10 fucking years this year, man. I can't believe it. And what's that one? That's like a 2015, 16, I can't remember. Anyway, it's electric. And you know, originally a Nova Bus LFS, like that piece of shit there, would cost $500,000. Now they cost like $1 million. And the camera doesn't want to stay in focus. There we go. And oddly enough, to see this one to start this video, because that one is a 2009, but that was one of the last models that were like a second gen. That means that type of headlights, normal seats, but that's where it all went downhill after that, because there's like no suspension. It's just unreal. You know, like how a trailer for a truck, you know, has like no shocks, or a little trailer you have for a car. Same thing. It's like a friend of mine once said, it's like riding in a container on wheels. Everything's fucking rattling around there, and just terrible all around. Kind of ironic to see this bus behind that electric bus you just saw down there, you know. And not only that, on top of that, for us gearheads, us vehicle enthusiasts, that was also to start with this shit motor. They sound like shit, those motors. I think they actually started in 2008, excuse me. And yeah, so something else I want to say that's important. I've been reflecting on these buses since it's been 10 years. 10 years I've been taking them, and I think they've probably taken off 10 years of my life because they were so maddening. They were so awkward to use, to take, you know. They're just so fucking uncomfortable. The seats are hard as a rock. The suspension, they don't sound good. I mean, my God. Not only that, it also occurred to me, more importantly, that unlike most people, I can't drive legally, right? So I mean, it's a big deal for me because I'm passionate about all the old vehicles, which I'll never be able to drive. So I'm stuck not only taking the bus, but taking this fucking crap. And then I was in Ottawa a couple of days ago on Wednesday, and I thought, man, you know, okay, whatever. I'm not crazy about the way their buses look too much, you know, but I mean, man, they're comfortable. Generally speaking, the seat, suspension. And another thing too about the LFS that's fucking annoying, I realized years ago, I think after having gone to like places like Ottawa, is the New Flyers, their wheelbase, the wheels aren't so far together as they are in the LFS. They're further apart, so therefore there's never any of this jostling, you know, that you'll find. Yeah. It's just maddening. I know I'm not the only one, but you know, one time I said to somebody, I said, there's nobody that hates these fucking buses more than I do. And they're like, no, I hate them more. I'm like, no, trust me. I hate the STM with a passion. And now it's come to a point where I even hate Nova Bus because they're the ones who make this fucking crap. So, and again, like I said, New Flyer buses may be a peg, you know, underneath the quality of buses, but at least they're comfortable buses. They're decent, not like this shit. You know? And look at this, happened to be next to a fucking chain of stores called Prohibition. Which makes about as much sense as the STM, for Christ. You know, I kind of feel bad for some of the people that got on that bus because they got a long way to go. That's a very long line, the 191. I know, I take it pretty often, you know. And the thing is, too, is that, what was I going to say, is that, you know, the STM a few years ago, they did a fucking study, because, you know, they're good at that shit, right? And they found out that the average passenger stays on a bus maybe 15 minutes. So that's why the seats are fucking crap. So that's their excuse, because that company's fucking good at all kinds of excuses, you know? Why buses are late. Why they break down. I mean, blah, 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 blah. And let's talk about that for a moment. I had never seen so many transit buses on a hook of a tow truck than these pieces of shit. Sure, the older buses break down, but they're old, for Christ's sake. These fucking buses are like, what, maybe 10 years old maximum, and they're fucking breaking down. The older buses, the classics, which you and I love, right? Or new looks or whatever, they're built to last forever, those fucking buses. Some of them did 30 years, you know? I mean, how's that for quality? Even Cornwall, last year, I think it was, they retired their ex-Quebec City bus. It was an 85 GM Classic. I mean, what does that tell you? You know, they don't make things like they used to be. They don't make things like they used to. It's hard to believe even that Nova Bus made the Classic between 1993 and 1997. Now, mind you, they weren't as well built as MCI, but they were still great. You know, and they didn't rust as badly as the the GM examples, and they weren't as underpowered as the GMs because they had the turbo Detroit diesel. Maybe it's kind of ironic, or it was meant to be, that I decided to make this video today, this being a Saturday evening, because that's all I've seen is fucking Sccrrapp. Dirty ass Sccrrapp junk. Nova Sccrrapp. Nova junk. Nova poubelle. You think I give a fuck that they're made in Quebec? They're embarrassing. Before 2009, you know, the first time I actually saw these buses, believe it or not, was actually in September 2009. That's when they started hitting the roads, and they were at an open house at the Belhachas garage. And as soon as I walked inside and I saw those cheap ass seats that look like they're worth fucking what, $20. I'm like thinking, even as years went by, I'm like, why doesn't just the STM, you know, like take out all the fucking seats and save $100? Because even the layout of the seats is shit. The only two good things I can tell you about this the only two things that they did improve on was they opened up the rear seating area. They called it Le Salon, the living room, which is kind of a joke. And also the other thing too is they don't get as cold in the winter. There's better sealant between the doors and the floor and the roof and all that, unlike the older model where the brushes are all worn out. So I'm probably going to add more to this, but I think I'll stop here for now. Yeah. So that's it, man. You know, life's not fair, and I can't change anything, but at least, you know, as usual, I'll spread the fucking word like gospel with this shit boxes, because Montreal, even though we've gone downhill, I find in many ways compared to other cities, we still are one of the most kick-ass cities in the world, and we should have kick-ass buses, and we should have kick-ass radio stations, but we don't have either one. So that just goes to tell you how fucking Montreal's gone fucking downhill in my books. And by the way, a few days ago I went to Ottawa, and you know what? There's almost no graffiti in Ottawa. It's like a miracle. It's like normal. It's like you're stepping back in time. And look at this. Speaking of Sccrrapp, look at this Volkswagen here. I just saw one around the corner. There's fucking thousands of these, I think, in the city. I never liked those ones. It's the ones before that were the best ones. You know, they were really most, you know, just a beautiful, iconic design. Those ones are just they're for the people who can't afford the older ones. Anyway, whatever floats your boat. Oh yeah, and there's a hybrid. That's what I wanted to touch on. $1 million for that piece of shit. And both light strips don't light up, by the way. Only one of them lights up. And if I'm standing in the back of the one I was on earlier, on the 125, my head literally touches the ceiling. Unreal. And